Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar on how to simplify, unlock data, and save big with application modernization. My name is Young Jay. I'm the head of marketing at Nodero, and today we're lucky to have Easton here with us. He's our head of development at Nodero, and he's led so many modernization projects, and we'll hear about that shortly. So, Eddie, let me just start with what kind of problems or challenges do these tech leaders from these large organizations face in terms of having kind of old legacy systems?
Thanks, Young That's a good question. There are multiple reasons why applications or systems might be considered for modernization. One of the key ones that I see is when a business critical application starts to become a business risk. Sometimes you might have examples of applications that have been developed in-house by one key individual who might be retiring or moving on, and there's like no one else who knows about it, but the app that they've built has become critical for a unit's processes, or the technology is getting old and is getting out of support. These processes that were built around an application can actually become a business risk if the application's not maintained. More and more these days, the issue of siloed data is another big driver for modernization. There are some applications where all the data, valuable information that organizations can use to drive decisions and make change, but sometimes it's just locked in to these bespoke applications that served their purpose at the time, but as organizations mature in their data journeys, they want to be able to use this data, and so
Definitely.
that can be another driver for modernization. The third one I'd mention is just security and compliance, like data security, application security, and access security are paramount for businesses and organizations these days. And some of these older systems come from simpler, more trusting times, where that wasn't as big on the radar, but it's important these days. So those can be drivers for modernization.
Absolutely. And could you, like, from your experience at Nodero, I can be within Nodero or outside of Nodero, but
Sure.
Could you give us some examples of actual transforming these legacy systems or modernizing these legacy systems?
Sure. So there's a couple of applications that come to mind. The first one was a academic institution that had developed an effective Microsoft Access application that had worked quite well when there was one person using it, but then two people were using it, and it started to feel the strain. And then as more data got added to it over time, they just found that while this tool was useful, it couldn't scale to the number of users that they wanted to be able to access it. And of course, Microsoft Access, for that solution, it needed to be accessed from a shared drive, which meant anyone who wanted to use this application needed to have access to the network, and they had business reasons for wanting to open it up more, but business organization rules that wouldn't let outsiders into the network for security reasons. And so those were some of the challenges that they were wanting to overcome with their modernization project. And so we helped them in this journey. Firstly, just getting a really good understanding of the business needs by working with key stakeholders. And we worked through that process of moving that Access app, reevaluating it, and giving them new future forward solution based on web technologies that addressed the issues that they had with that. And we find that there are quite a few, organizations that have had sort of individual team members who have taken it upon themselves to push through and create something in Access or another
Yeah.
program that, they've wanted something, they haven't been able to find something and thought, I'll just do it myself.
Mm.
And so away they go and they build something useful. But that idea of scaling and data
Yeah.
protection and thing are often not part of the package with these apps. And they can be hard to extend as well, especially if
Mm.
that original creator has moved on.
Mm. Oh, gotcha. So I mean, you've mentioned scalability. How, like, what kind of well, I'm no techie. Is there any? Can you share us a bit more insight, or kind of at a tech level, on how do you make them scale? Or yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, when we're dealing with building web apps, you build them to scale. You use modern cloud technologies
Mm.
that will ramp up when there's lots of users accessing the system at once. It can be that kind of scaling of resource,
Mm.
but it can also just mean like enablement of more users.
Mm.
In this previous example, you had to have like an Active Directory account and access to this network drive with the access file in it to be able to use this application, but
Mm.
they had a need for individuals from outside the organization to be able to access this application as well.
Mm.
Um, and so by like understanding this need and rebuilding it with that in mind, we're able to provide authentication methods um, and authentication methods for outsiders to access and use the system as well.
Mm.
Approved outsiders,
Mm.
there's
Mm.
a channel to get these people on board
Mm.
without the rigmarole and the security concerns of
Mm.
getting them on the Active
Absolutely.
Directory account. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Definitely. So I mean, in academic, or kind of like academic providers or higher education providers, I guess modernizing their legacy systems would be crucial in terms of scalability, simplifying processes, and even like you mentioned the data as well. It's so important. So we've talked about higher education industry. Were there any
well,
other industries that you worked on, or?
I just want to like add something else there.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not a fan of modernization just for modernization's sake. You
Mm,
know, while we've talked about an example of an old application that needed to scale and things like that, there
mm,
are still lots of apps that are quite well serving the purpose they were built for.
mm.
Um, you know, they so they might be running just fine. So that's
Yeah.
the first thing. Like just because the system you're using is old,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
doesn't mean it's automatically a contender for modernization. So
Gotcha.
I would say, want to throw that caveat in there.
Mm. As long as it serves the purpose, you don't need to modernize it. But where you see, I
Yeah,
guess, where you want to see growth, scalability, if I guess if the purpose
yeah,
or the business goals evolve as as the company or the organization grows, I guess that's when we need to talk about I guess the needs come first. What is the purpose? And
yeah,
with the modern system serve that, will solve that problem, then yes. But if
yeah.
it's okay with to do with the old system, you say it's okay.
Well, I think if there is a business risk
Mm,
or a business opportunity, that's when it's time to consider modernization.
definitely. And yeah, as I mentioned, you've mentioned the higher education industry. Was there another industry that you could think of, or yeah.
Yeah, sure. So we have worked with a council group who had a
Okay.
bespoke desktop application, and they had some challenges with that and some um, some improvements they wanted to make to that system, which they couldn't do.
Mm,
One of the main challenges they were facing was um, this idea of data lock-in or siloing of data. So the information that that application was capturing
mm,
was very useful and valuable for um, making decisions in the city's waste treatment division. but it was all locked in on this computer in this little room. And so when they were considering modernisation, that was one of their key drivers, is they wanted this data to be accessible and ingestible by other systems to help them in their data data decision making process and be able to use it for more analytics and things like that. So that was a big driver for them. The other consideration they had was the system they had looked very old, which in of itself isn't an issue, but it was very difficult to train new staff members into using this application because it wasn't very intuitive. So when we were working with them and helping to work out what the needs they had were, those were two big contenders. Making a new system that would have a clean UI that was intuitive, easy to use, and easy to learn was one of the key components, and unlocking that data to make it available for other systems that they use was critical for them. Really, really
Gotcha.
highly important.
Wow. Yeah, it does sound like that data related problems are quite a big problem for these kind of councils and I guess in any other organizations. And I mean if we look at the world right now, AI is the very, it's a key hot topic at the moment. Are we able to use AI in these modernization processes?
Um, well, there's a real temptation at the moment to just look at something and go, how can I use AI in this?
Mm,
But I think that's putting the question around the wrong way. It's more important to understand the business needs
mm,
and let that determine your technical solution,
mm,
right? But obviously, like all these AI systems are fed with data,
mm, mm,
so organizations that are wanting to utilize AI do need to find ways of unlocking data from the applications.
mm,
But I'd say like that is one of the things you have to look out for when you're modernizing projects, is like, what's the latest hot thing? Like as tech
yeah.
people, we want to use it, we want to put it in, but
Mm,
it's actually really understanding the business needs, the user needs,
mm,
and using that to determine what will be included in the solution. And by all means, if the business is really keen to start working with AI and
mm,
things like that, then that's got to be part of your consideration in the
mm,
modernization thing.
definitely.
Does that answer that question?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I mean, from marketing point of view, or even personal level, I use AI, and I'm sure you use AI for a lot of your work. And I was wondering, how could AI impact, whether that's streamlining things, doing a lot of admin stuff in application modernization for organizations. So yeah, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, go back to that business need first. If that business need requires an AI to do things, then yeah, definitely. But don't just go into AI just because of the hype.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that makes sense. Thank you so much. Um, so just to close, well, before we close, I wanted to. So we've got audiences watching, some tech leaders from medium to large organizations in New Zealand, or people wanting to, modernize their old legacy systems. What would be, I guess, your top key takeaways or key advice that you would give to them when they're looking at modernizing their old systems?
Okay. The first piece of key advice I would give is, it is not just a tech initiative
Mm,
when you're doing these modernization projects. It's really important to engage stakeholders at the start and regularly throughout the project throughout the project life cycle,
mm,
which becomes like a lifestyle when you're deep in a project. Anyway, so it's really important to bring in stakeholders early and continually, not just to get a really clear understanding of requirements, but also to get buy-in from
Mm,
key users in the new systems. That is really critical because there's going to be um, onboarding, there's going to have to be a period of changeover between using the old system and new system, and you want the people who are going to be using your new modernized project to be excited, to feel like they've been part of the process and that they've had their voices heard. That will give you much better adoption when you release. So
mm,
that would be the first big piece of advice. My second big piece of advice would be avoid the temptation for a big bang rewrite.
mm,
I.e., what I mean by that is just like looking at what you've got and saying, oh, we've got this in Access, we've got this as an Access app, we're going to rebuild exactly the same thing as a web app. Do not
mm,
replace like for like.
mm,
Um, it's the perfect time to reevaluate the the higher purpose of that application is serving, and maybe are there ways, since we're doing since we're modernizing it, are
mm,
there new things that are going to enable the business to grow?
mm,
Could we add functionality in that makes more sense? Are we doing processes via the old app that aren't really in line with how we want to do things, but we've just
mm,
sort of adjusted them just to fit with this app? It's the
mm,
perfect time to ask those questions and incorporate those answers into the solution that you're building.
mm,
Um, it's really important at the start of these projects to get a clear understanding of the legacy complexity. Often it's not just one application. What I mean by that is the application may integrate with hardware or a database somewhere else. So you need to get a really good snapshot of current state and get a really good understanding of all the different things that that system works with, that system touches, so you can make sure that you are not introducing any business holes when you roll out something new.
mm, mm,
Um, and yeah, I think the other thing is your data management has to be a big consideration. Like some of these
mm.
old processes where we're taking access databases and converting them to web applications or web enabled applications.
Yeah.
Data migration um, becomes part of the job, moving those
Mm,
to new, more robust data systems. You
yes.
need to have a plan for um, potentially cleaning and transforming data on the migration. So um,
Wow.
that's another
Amazing.
important part. And we sort of touched on it before, but don't just chase the latest hot trend when you're
No.
designing your latest solution.
Hmm.
Avoid the temptation to inject AI just because.
Just because. Definitely. No, thank you so much, Eddie. Those are wonderful, wonderful insights and key takeaways. So I'll just wrap up. Thank you all for watching our webinar today. Big thanks to Eddie for sharing your insights and your experience. And if you need help with any, legacy modernization projects, you can reach out to us at Nodero. Eddie and his team would love to help. But we also just don't stop there. We also do other things. We do custom software applications. We support delivery with project management, business analysis, and testing. So if you need help with those things, let us know. But until next time, take care. Thanks again for watching, and thank you, Eddie, for your insights. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks, YJ.
Cheers.
Cheers.